Today, we're going to review the brand new Mitsubishi Outlander, the first new vehicle they've built as part of their alliance with Nissan. It's well known that Mitsubishi has struggled in the US market in recent years. Is this vehicle capable of changing that? Let's find out. But first, an Outlander montage. I'm one of the many car enthusiasts that longs for the rally cars and the sports cars from Mitsubishi's past. As much as I'd like them to bring back the Evo or the Eclipse, or something weird like the Diamante wagon, I know that their survival as a car brand in the US depends on their success with SUVs and crossovers. Could this brand new Outlander SUV signify a new beginning for vehicles from Mitsubishi? Let's find out, shall we? Underneath the bodywork is essentially a Nissan Rogue, though the Outlander features entirely different sheet metal, suspension tuning, and interior components. Mitsubishi is certainly trying to set itself apart from the competition. This all-new exterior design has a space-age vibe, especially right here in the front. With its squinty daytime running lights, huge swaths of chrome surrounding a piano black grille, gigantic stacked headlights, it is sort of a love it or hate it front end. From some angles, it's actually eye-catching, and from other angles, it kind of looks like it has a handlebar mustache. Whether you think it looks striking or gaudy, one thing's for sure, this front end certainly doesn't really look like anything else that's out there right now. The side profile has a nice straight roofline, and it looks pretty great from this angle. The rear end also looks pretty nice, almost kind of like a budget BMW X5 vibe going on here. Now, the size of this vehicle is sort of an in-betweener. It's slightly larger than a Toyota RAV4 or a Honda CR-V, and even a bit larger than the previous Outlander, but smaller than just about all three-row SUVs. Now onto this interior. More than anything else, this right here, this is the reason why you should seriously consider an Outlander. This cabin has a premium feel, near perfect fit and finish, lots of soft touch materials, with an attention to detail not usually found at this price point. Now, of course, we're looking at the top trim SEL with the touring package, but I'd say this interior is a bit nicer than what you'd find in a RAV4, even a CR-V, or the Rogue on which this is based. I really appreciate the super clean, simple, and focused design. Everything is well placed and intuitive, there's no fussy details, it flows very nicely. Well done, Mitsubishi. Man, it's been a while since I've said that. This touring package comes with textured aluminum trim on the center console, which is carried over to the switches, the knobs, and the drive mode selector. They all have a nice feel to them. There's elegant contrast color stitching on the dash, a diamond pattern on the door panels and the seats, which looks fantastic. And these seats. The SEL touring package gives you these quilted leather seats, heated both front and rear. These are just so incredibly comfortable. They hug you, they're super soft. Some of the most comfortable car seats I've sat in a very long time. They might even rival those sumptuous Corinthian leather seats I had in my old Chrysler Fifth Avenue. 3-zone climate control is standard on all trims, and it's super easy to use. There's no dumb gimmicky design, it's all very straightforward. And here we've got the larger optional 9-inch infotainment display. It's easy to use with decent graphics. And like most new vehicles, we got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but SE models and up get wireless CarPlay. And of course, multiple USB ports and wireless charging. This leather-wrapped steering wheel looks nice, it's super chunky, maybe a bit too thick for my taste, but overall it looks pretty good. With the exception of this cover right here, this is kind of the only area of the interior where it feels a little bit cheap. Pretty much the only area in this cabin where I can say that. Yeah, there's other hard plastics that can be found, but they're mostly hidden out of sight and in places that you wouldn't normally touch. Now in front of me, there's no analog gauges to be found. We've got a full screen display here, and it looks pretty nice. You can switch from normal looking gauges to the Price is Right style gauges, which is weird, but cool, I guess. Bob Barker and Drew Carey would approve. The SEL touring package also gives you a heads-up display and this huge panoramic sunroof. Overall, I really like it in here. I appreciate that the design is simple. It's not gimmicky. It's really clean. It's elegant. I dig this two-tone where I know some people won't be into this orange, but I really like it. It's nice. It's a nice contrast to the black. Yeah, there's a little tiny bit of piano black down here that will get dusty, but in general, this is just really fantastic at this price point. Yeah, I really dig it. Now, second row comfort is actually quite good. I'm 6'3", and with my seat set for myself in front of me, I actually still have a little bit of space back here. So if this was set for a slightly shorter person, you'd have a ton of room back here. This panoramic sunroof is awesome, but yeah, it definitely eats into your headroom back here. It's fine right here for me, but if I switch over to the center seat, yeah, my head hits the ceiling. But if you're a little shorter, it'd be fine. Yeah, in general, really nice back here. This middle seat actually folds down to reveal a cup holder and to allow long items to pass through to the cargo area, which is pretty neat. Right in the middle here, we've got rear climate controls and USB ports, but they're way down towards the bottom. Now, this vehicle also has a third row, not something you'd normally find in a vehicle of this size. Technically, this is a 7-passenger vehicle, but to be more specific, it's really a 5+2. 5 people you like up front and 2 people you hate in the back. I'm sure Mitsubishi put this in here to differentiate the Outlander in this crowded segment, but that third row is mostly useless. It's probably fine for your kids on a short trip, like a really short trip, and I'm not even going to attempt to get back there because I'll most likely get stuck. All right, I'll do it. Okay, if I get stuck back here, please send help. This is going well so far. My knees are about 5 inches in front of the second row. Let's see if we can get this back. Ow, eesh. All right, okay, I found a way to make the third row work for me. I just put my legs up here. I think that's acceptable, right? Like a lot of crossovers nowadays, we've got a foot-activated liftgate. If you've got those third row seats up, there is just a tiny space for cargo. I mean, I've seen bicycles with more cargo space. But fold down that very occasional use third row, and now you've got a good amount of space. 33.5 cubic feet, which is slightly less than a RAV4 or a CRV. We've got handles to fold down that second row, which is a nice feature. And with all the seats folded flat, we've got almost 80 cubic feet of space, which is actually more than a RAV4 or a CRV. One of the first things that I notice is that there's not a whole lot of road and wind noise, and that quietness sort of gives it a little bit more of a high-end feel. Visibility is pretty good all around, though the front end feels a bit high, making it slightly tough to judge where the front of the car is. Kind of makes it feel like you're driving a larger car than you actually are. Under the hood is the exact same 2.5 liter 4-cylinder found in the Nissan Rogue, with the exact same 181 horsepower, and the exact same 181 pound-feet of torque, and the exact same feel of being ever so slightly underpowered. When passing on the freeway, there is a lag before the drivetrain gets the message and reluctantly agrees to accelerate, but around town, I'd say it's perfectly acceptable and won't really likely be an issue. It's just not gonna be fun. Car enthusiasts love to hate on continuously variable transmissions with good reason. They often provide really uninspiring driving experiences. But this one here is actually decent. It mimics gear changes and doesn't allow the engine to drone incessantly. Speaking of fake gear changes, this Outlander has paddle shifters. I've never quite understood why a car with a CVT needs paddle shifters, but here we are. It actually does a pretty good job of actually feeling like real gear changes, but what's the point? I suppose they might be useful if you want to hold RPMs going down a hill or in the snow. Do you own a car with a CVT that has paddle shifters, and do you actually use them? Let me know in the comments. Front wheel drive is standard on the Outlander, but here we have the optional all-wheel drive. And there's quite a few drive modes. We've got normal, eco, tarmac, which is basically a sport mode, gravel, snow, and mud. This all-wheel drive system comes with active yaw control, which always sounds a little weird to me, but it actually does something pretty cool. It does increase cornering and traction performance, and you can actually feel it on a road like this. The steering is responsive and nicely weighted. There is a bit of lean in the corners, but only when you really push it. I wouldn't say it's fun, mainly because of the powertrain, but it's surprisingly sure-footed and actually has a pretty decent amount of grip. The ride's pretty good too, but we've got low profile tires on these 20-inch wheels, so you do feel some of those larger bumps. Like many new vehicles, the list of included safety features and driver assistance tech is quite long. Blind spot warning, rear cross traffic alert, auto braking, and we've got the My Pilot Assist, which is essentially a combination of adaptive cruise control and lane centering. And it works great. Fuel economy for this top tier all-wheel drive model is rated at 26 miles per gallon combined, which certainly isn't class leading. With my somewhat heavy right foot, I've averaged 23 miles per gallon, which is acceptable, I guess. Now, word on the street is that Mitsubishi will offer a plug-in hybrid version of this new Outlander. More power and way better fuel economy in this package would be a pretty big deal. Okay, how much does all of this cost? The Outlander starts at just under 26 grand, and this top trim SEL with a $2,700 SEL touring package comes in at $37,995. Yeah, that's getting up there, especially when compared to some of the other solid contenders in this segment. But to be fair, this car is a solid contender itself. I just have to get used to saying that when referring to a Mitsubishi. So how does this stack up against a Toyota RAV4? The Outlander's base price is a bit cheaper, and this car also has a nicer interior. The RAV4 is a bit more powerful and gets better gas mileage, and the RAV4 can be had with a hybrid powertrain. How about the Honda CR-V? I think the Outlander interior is a bit nicer with better infotainment, but the CR-V is quicker and returns better fuel economy, and you can get it with a hybrid. What about the new Nissan Rogue on which this Outlander is based? They're nearly identical in many ways, but I'd say the interior on the Mitsubishi gives it the edge. The Outlander also has a better warranty. While this new Outlander is light years better than the old one, it's in an incredibly competitive segment that already has a lot of solid choices. But the interior in this thing is just so nice, especially at this price point. I can imagine that the cabin alone might lure more than a few Toyota and Honda buyers over to Mitsubishi. Yeah, the powertrain is not my favorite. It could certainly use a few more horses under the hood, but I do think the introduction of their plug-in hybrid could change all that. Now, I know for many of you, it's extremely difficult to get excited about yet another crossover, but I was actually really surprised by this thing. Nissan deserves credit for the platform, but Mitsubishi took some chances to bring some much needed style to this segment. I'm a huge fan of what Mitsubishi has done in years past, and I'd love to see them succeed in the US. If this new Outlander is any indication of what's possible, I'm excited for their future. If you like this video and you'd like to see more like it, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon so you can get notified of all my new car reviews, used car reviews, and updates on my fleet of mostly broken and terrible 80s and 90s cars. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're well, and I'll see you soon.